The following is a sponsored program on WBT.
Investment advice provided on the following program is on an individual basis. Listeners should not consider today's discussion as a recommendation for any investment and should carefully evaluate before investing. This is Your Real Estate Today on News Talk 1110 WBT.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the show, Your Real Estate Today. Happy Saturday. I hope where you are safe, you are happy, and you are ready to enjoy the show, Your Real Estate Today. It's Paul Jamison, your host. I own the Jamison family of companies. That's Jamison Realty, Jamison Property Management, Jamison Property Investments. We are here today. The topics of the show is to talk about real estate. We've got a lot of information for you. We have lots of things we're going to share over the next hour, so we're excited to do that with you. And I am here with my great friend and a great partner to the Jamison team, Sandy Dickenson with Summit Funding. Hey, Sandy, welcome back.
Hey, good to be here again.
Good to be here with you. So if you are listening right now, remember, if you leave the car, you can also pick it up on your phone on the radio.com app. If the AM radio isn't strong enough, we're at 99.3 FM. Or if you want to watch our faces as we sit here and make gestures and scratch our heads and talk to you, you can go to my YouTube channel, Jamison Realty, and we are recording those, and we do put them up on a regular basis. So you can see sometimes behind the show or all kinds of crazy gestures we're making and hand signals we're doing at each other, but it's also sometimes fun to put the faces with the voices. You know, funny story. I don't know, Sandy, if I ever told you that many times when I go to the door of meeting people for the first time to list their home or help them with an investment or work with them as a buyer, I go to the door and I knock on the door and they come to the door and they stare at me. Have I told you why?
You did, but I'll let you tell it.
Okay, so the reason is because people have told me that I have a short, plump man voice. So when I go to the door, I'm just under 6'4", and I'm not saying I'm skinny, but it's all, I look at people and they're looking me up and down, and I already know what they're thinking. So anyway, when you see me, I'm not short. I'm not skinny, but it's always funny. It happens to me all the time. So anyway, it's just a funny aside. It has nothing to do with real estate. But before we start, here's what I want to do, and I'm going to try to do this more on a regular basis. Mickey's Restaurant in Matthews at Matthews Festival. I went there the other day. They're coming out of the COVID, and they serve great American comfort food. I went there for breakfast. I got my hash browns crispy, my Greek omelet, my wheat toast. They've got great dinner specials. Mickey's Restaurant in Matthews at Matthews Festival. These guys could use the business. They cook great food. It's family owned. Go see them. Support them. Hang with them. They're good people. You got anybody you like, Sandy?
I do have somebody I like.
Tell me.
I like Amaggio's Pizza.
Uh-huh.
They are downstairs near the Metropolitan on Charlottetown Drive. And through the whole thing, their service has been amazing, and their food is terrific. They have great pizzas, but they also have great salads. Their meatballs are amazing. They have appetizers. I think they're back to serving people inside, but they always have a great attitude, which I love, and great service, and they're just a top-notch family place to eat.
The name again is?
Amaggio. Starts with the O, but I don't know how to spell it. I just
Amaggio's. And give them a try down by the Metropolitan. Again, let's support some of these restaurants. Let's get back together and let's give them as boost. I mean, aren't you done cooking? I mean, for goodness sake, you got stuck inside cooking for all that time. Go out and eat something. So, all right. Okay. So, here's a little preview of what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about what happens after we go under contract and we're done high-fiving. I'll talk a little bit about that and why list your home right now. Sandy's going to give us a mortgage update here in just a minute, and then she's going to talk about ready, set, go. When it comes to your mortgage, we want to help you get prepared. We want to help you get ready because we're in a dynamic market right now. We've got more content. If we need it, we'll see where we go from there. I've got this bad contractor content that I've been kind of holding on to. If we've got time, we might touch base on that a little bit. But we're happy to be spending our Saturday with you. So here we go. Sandy, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So give us the mortgage update first. What's happening with rates? Where are we going? How is the activity? Give us the bullet.
Okay, so rates are right now very steady, mainly because the Fed is buying up billions of dollars of mortgage-backed securities.
Ooh.
This week they've bought $4.5 million. Year to date since March, they've bought $700 billion. So they're keeping our rates nice and low. Meanwhile, the stock market, at least as of today, is super happy.
Yes.
It's up tremendously. We looked at the ADP unemployment today, and the anticipation was that it was going to be 8.75 million, but the real number was 2.76, so they only missed it by 6 million.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Sandy, stop. What did you just say?
I said that the ADP unemployment estimation was 8.75 million. The real number was 2.76. People are going back to work. So it's still a high number, but they totally missed the number on their estimate.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
By a smidge.
Whose model was this?
I don't know. I just
TJ, did you hear that? People, did you hear that? Oh, my gosh. I mean, did anybody out there just swerve in their car? Oh, my gosh. Honk right now, if you can't believe that.
And I guess that's why the stock market's fairly happy.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Purchases are up.
What is?
Applications are up.
Are they?
Yep. Refis came down a little bit, so now we're just under 60% refi, and other than that, purchases. So it's a nice balance, actually. It'll just keep balancing. People are rushing from urban to suburban. That's no surprise, I guess, as they try to get away from each other. But overall, the purchase market's great. We need more houses on the market. So if you want to sell or thinking about selling, put them on the market. You'll get a great dollar for it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit and talk through some of those points. So, of course, you're involved in that discussion as well. All right, so what we're going to talk about kind of through the end of the segment over the next minute or a minute and a half and then into the second segment is what happens after the high fives, right? And we're under contract. Woo! We're there. Well, it's time to woo, but not like super woo. Because there's some things to go through, right? We've got to get to the finish line. The big woo is when? The big woo is when that money crosses the table into your checking account or your savings account or into your hands, right? That's the super woo. Or when you've bought the home and you're sitting in it. Woo.
Right.
Should I say woo-hoo? Maybe that's easier to determine than woo.
Yeah, I like that better.
Yeah. All right, so we got to get to the finish line. We got to get to the woo-hoo. All right, so the very first thing we have to understand is, I was talking to a guy the other day, and he goes, in this market, man, I'm just tell you, I don't need you. I don't need a realtor. Okay? If you want to get to the woohoo, you're going to need some help, especially right now, for a lot of reasons. There are mandatory parts of the transaction that have to be executed, whether you're selling it yourself or not. And you need to know what those are. But some of the biggest challenges are not getting to the offer. As Sandy alluded to before, in a shortage of inventory market we're talking about later, you can sell it if you price it right and it's decent.
Mm-hmm.
It's what happens next. So stay with us after the break, and we're going to talk about those. So what happens next? We'll be right back. Paul Jamison, Jamison Family of Companies, Sandy Dickinson, Summit Funding, here on News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show, Your Real Estate Today. Hey, it's Paul Jamison, your host with the Jamison Family of Companies. Here enjoying Saturday afternoon with Sandy Dickinson with Summit Funding. Sandy is a mortgage officer and runs Summit Funding's office in northern Charlotte, and is pretty great. So if you're thinking about a mortgage, you need to call her, and even if you're thinking about a refi, 704-577-0144. Sandy Dickinson, Summit Funding. All right, so Sandy, before the break, we're talking about, once the first initial woohoo is there to get to the final end of it, and, to get to that finish line and working with a real estate agent, there's a lot of communication that has to go back and forth. And a lot of that is between the agents, but it also, how it's done and how it's communicated is very important. One of the biggest hurdles is going to be the inspection report. Let's just face it, it's there, okay? Even in a new house, friends, you do an inspection, there are going to be things that come up. I did one on a new construction that was ready to go, been through the builder, been blue taped, been gone through, been checked out, still had 18 items that needed to be taken care of. They weren't major, but they were major enough that they should be taken care of before that client closes on the home. All right? And it's how you communicate those repairs. But more importantly, and you all have been with us with Preston Sandlin, you have to understand how to read the inspection report. You must understand how to read it, what it means, what to worry about, and what not to worry about. Here is an example, okay? The way an inspector is required, due to many, many years of probably challenges to their report, legally or otherwise, they have to write a report based on the codes of today. Now, if you have a 1970s house, 80s house, 90s house, 2000 house, or even one that's a week old, codes change every day. So, the very best way to do it is to understand what is important in that report, what is worth fighting for, and what is not worth fighting for, what is required to be fought for, what is not required to be fought for, based on the opinion of the buyer, seller, and of course you have a choice. You can go here, fix everything, but I can tell you the deal's over if you ask that. But the realtor should be working hard to explain to the buyer, and the realtor should be working hard to explain to the seller what's important in that report and how to read it. Because in some cases, if you look at it, it'll scare the living daylights out of you and make you want to run. And if you don't have experience with that, you don't really know what you're reading, right? So understand what you're reading and then pick your battles. Because here's the next thing. And I put this between everything. You got to stay calm, right? Stay calm. Because the minute you get energized, it puts something different into the conversation, all right? It's completely off script and completely off topic, but real estate related. Right before we got on to the show today, I received a call from my office. I have a rental home in Monroe, and the plumber is there right now digging up the front yard. TJ walked in and he said, your conversation does not sound good. And so when the plumber called, the sewer line is open. I am sitting here, and he says, all right, what do you want to do? And a repair that was quoted at $2,300 is now $10,000.
Wow.
So I begin to have a conversation, no different than I would have for a client under repair negotiation. How do we work together to get a resolution to this? Because $10,000 won't be happening. I didn't say, why are you wanting to charge me $10,000? What does that do? That puts the person on defense, right? How are we going to work together? And I think that's the same attitude you have to have related to your home and the inspection report. How are we going to get to the finish line? How are we going to be able to work this out together? And I got to tell you, I deal with this in every single transaction. It is the super touch point we all have to face. How are you going to get to the next steps? How are you going to come to an agreement? It's not an attack point. It's not a derogatory point. You stay calm and you talk about how you work it out together. And I think you'll be surprised. Using words like how or what are very different than using the word why. And it makes a lot of difference in how you communicate those changes. People think, you got to negotiate. We're dealing with this here. You're dealing with heavy emotions on both sides. But everybody has the common goal, right? The seller wants to sell, the buyer wants to buy. Never forget that. And you end up working together. The next hurdle, somewhat different, but still something you have to face. The appraisal, right? The house has to appraise for the amount of money that you're purchasing it for. And I say has to with a asterisk, right, Sandy? I mean, the person can bring more money to the table, or it could appraise for more and, happy, right?
Right.
But there has to be that hurdle that you go through, and you have to understand how to mitigate it. After all the years that I have, and I used to get really upset with appraisers when appraisals didn't come through. And there's an occasion when I do, because, just like realtors, there's some not so good realtors and there's some not so good appraisers. But for the most part, those guys are excellent. And they're not mind readers either. So it's my job as the listing agent to make sure that that appraiser knows the information he needs to give a fair value to that house. And there's certain things he's not going to know, or she, unless I tell them that. So what do? We meet every appraiser at that house, and we provide them with the information that the seller has given us that they need to know, or information that I know that they need to know. That is super important. You want to get to the woohoo, we're done? You got to do that step. It is critical. All right? Keeping everybody calm during a super emotional time is in every transaction. That's an important part. Next, make a plan for the unforeseen. There are times when there are things just out of control. Doesn't close for some reason. There's an issue with the title work. Doesn't close for some reason because of, Sandy's always closes on time, but Sandy doesn't do every single loan in Charlotte. She does most of them. I'm just kidding. But sometimes loans don't close on time. Sometimes sellers don't get things they're supposed to get done on time. Prepare for the unforeseen, the what if. All right? Know when that point is to pack, stack, and move. There's a fine line in the transaction where you have to know you're over the majority of the hurdles. And it's time to get the house ready for the next buyer. And that's one thing I always like to work with my sellers with. How do we get the house ready for the next buyer? It doesn't mean once the house goes under contract that you stop cutting the grass for the next 30 to 45 days. Doesn't mean that you don't clean it for the next 30 to 45 days. Doesn't mean that when you throw away the trash, you leave it for the buyer to take out to the curb after it's over. There's a way to prepare the house, and a way to take the emotion out of the transaction. But honestly, it's not the seller's fault. The agents need to let the sellers know what they're expected to do. So there are important keys like that. We're going to keep going. And Sandy Dickinson's up next, and I'm going to finish the couple of thoughts. So don't get out of the car quite yet, or pick us up on radio.com. The show Your Real Estate Today. Paul Jamison here with Sandy. We're on News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. Stay right there. Welcome back, friends. The show Your Real Estate Today here on News Talk 1110, 99.3 radio.com and the Jamison Realty YouTube channel. Welcome. I'm here with Sandy Dickenson with Summit Funding. I'm Paul Jamison, your host. If you're just now tuning in, this show is about real estate. And a part of the real estate is also your mortgage. And I own an investment real estate firm, a regular real estate firm for buyers and sellers, and a property management company. So we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. And Sandy runs the office for Summit Funding in North Charlotte, and she does most of our mortgages, I would say, and she is excellent. So we'll make sure that we connect you with her if you're thinking about refining your home or purchasing another. All right. Okay, so before the break, we were talking about getting to the woohoo of the transaction, which is when the money crosses the table, not just with the contract. We've talked about having a plan, understanding the report, negotiating fairly, waiting for the appraisal, keeping everybody calm, making plans for the unforeseen, knowing when to pack, stack, and move, getting the house ready for the next buyer, having a celebration plan 6 feet away, and staying in touch with your new friend Paul and Sandy when the transaction is over, because we love going down that journey with folks. Don't we, Sandy?
We do.
It's a lot of fun. We make a lot of new friends, don't we?
Yeah. Mortgages are fun. Real estate's fun.
Yeah. All right. So, Sandy, here we go. All right, you ready? Ready, set, go scenario. Yes, I made this up, and Sandy got stuck with it. But we felt like in a market like this, where statistics are telling you that we have very low inventory, and right now, if you're a seller or if you're a buyer, you need to be ready. And I felt like it was important, Sandy, for you to touch on the ready. Kind of give us an overall, what do you need to get ready? Once you're ready, how do you get to the next phase, getting things set? What does that mean? What does your letter look like? What is, those kind of things. And then the go scenario, which basically means getting to the closing table on time, right? So let's start with the ready. What is somebody who's now saying, okay, I'm going to move, I'm going to buy a house. You're standing in front of them and you're going, okay, here's the things you need to do right now to get ready.
Yeah, so first of all, I need to know what their goals are, like how much they want. If they have a price point in mind, it's good to know that. How much they want to put down, do they want a 15, a 30-year, an ARM type loan? What's their credit like? So I talk to them about that because they might have concerns. They might think I can't get a loan because my credit's not good, or I can't get a loan because I don't have enough down payment. And some of them don't know what down payment requirements are. We have a lot of different types of loans. And so it's important that first we find out what your goals are and what you're looking for in a house. And then we take all your application information. And it's important to do that before you start looking because there may be things that pop up that you didn't realize. Like maybe you haven't been working steady during COVID, and maybe that's going to be an issue, or maybe it's not. Maybe you filed forbearance on your current mortgage,
Yeah.
and that might be a problem, depending on the type of loan you want to get. Or it might not. Like, we just have to, or maybe something pops up on your credit report you had no idea. Maybe there was a medical collection or something that we can fix before you start looking that will make a huge difference in your rate and your payment.
That
So
one
we
of your
select
kids didn't pay, that you guaranteed from when they were 2 years old.
Right.
Excuse me, sorry.
That might have happened to somebody that
Yeah.
we know.
Impulse, sorry. I thought I was alone.
So we collect your documents, your pay stubs, your W-2s, your bank statements. Under certain circumstances, we need your tax returns. We analyze all of that, and then we provide you with either a pre-approval or action items to achieve your goal. So, or maybe both. Maybe we get to a pre-approval and say, hey, you can get a better loan if you do these couple of things. I have one guy that was working like 30 hours a week, and I just said, if you have the opportunity to work 40 hours a week, and he can buy more house, which he was loving. So he's under contract for a little bit more house, and he's super happy because someone in another loan officer and another company didn't tell him that, and it made a big difference for him and his wife. So we go in deep and we look at everything and we analyze everything, and it probably seems invasive, but it's all because we want to get you the best deal and tailor the loan to your goals, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And, I think a couple of the things that we don't really think about is, there's a lot of things that you have to gather. But if you gather those things and you have a list, I mean, it's things you deal with every day, right? Your bank statements, your mortgage statements, like you said, your tax returns, and but also what's interesting is now the technology is where I can give Sandy some information and she can go get that stuff in some cases as well.
Yes, that's true. That's true. There's new guides out there that allow us to gather information with your permission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, so we've got everything ready. We've got the initial documents, and you can create a letter. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So that letter, what does that letter look like? And what makes that letter appealing to a potential seller?
So for us, since we do all that stuff up front, we can write a super strong letter, which is a pre-approval letter. So I take all that information and I submit it through a portal, an underwriting portal, and it spits out, yes, it looks approved, or nope, caution, it doesn't look approved. So upon approval through the automated system, I can write a pre-approval letter. Doesn't mean the underwriters looked at it, although sometimes if we're worried about a loan, we have the underwriter look at it up front. Typically, we don't need to do that. We provide a pre-approval letter based on the documentation and the portal underwrite. So realtors and sellers really like that because right now they want to make sure that once they're under contract that it's going to close. And if there's any questions, I'll call the listing agent. Like if it looks like multiple offers, I'll call them and give them reassurance that our loan's going to close and to please pick us. So it makes a difference between that and maybe you just call somebody and give them some information over the phone and it's super easy and they send over a pre-qualification letter without looking at your documents. That's not as strong, and it's not going to pull a lot of weight with the sellers, not in this market where the inventory is super low.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about what you said, Sandy, is I gave the example earlier of how we deal with appraisers, right? We go to the home. We give them information that they wouldn't normally have unless we told them. And most agents don't do that, And
they don't. It's super important, and
right.
And that's a great thing about working with Paul and his company.
Well, the fact that you're willing to call the listing agent, nobody does that. Because what's happening now in this competitive market is that when you go under contract, you only want to go under contract one time, right? Because if you come back from being under contract because of a bad loan or because the financing is not right, the listing gets called the stink eye. The next time it comes out on the market, what's wrong with it? Why did it fall through? What happened to it? Must be something wrong. We're going to offer less. It happens, right. Sandy. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we pick up after the break, we're going to pick up right here because there's more to the letter that I want to touch on, and then we'll get to the go, which is your side of the woohoo, right? All right. Mm-hmm. The show Your Real Estate today, Paul Jamison with Jamison Family of Companies and Sandy Dickenson with Summit Funding. Stay with us. We've got more to talk about right here on News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. Welcome back to Show Your Real Estate today. I always feel like on the last segment you do like the Vegas show tunes kind of thing. I feel like I don't know. It's so fun. Yeah, what the heck? Real estate, Vegas. Oh, Steely Dan. Yeah, a little Steely Dan. Yeah, there you go. TJ's gracious enough to produce us, and we're thankful for him and all of his help. I'm here with Sandy Dickenson with Summit Funding. If you're just tuning in, you probably don't know what this is about. It's the show Your Real Estate today. I'm Paul Jamison, your host. We're talking real estate. We're talking about getting ready to purchase a home, refi a home, or even sell your home and buy another. All things that you're getting ready for in this real estate market right now. But Sandy, we were talking at the break. We talked about all the different things you needed to do in the prior segment about getting ready. And then we have the set portion, which is the letter. So the reason I wanted to bring the letter back up, and you talked about pre-qualified versus pre-approval, and the pre-approval is stronger, and you put the conditions in, and Sandy's one of those that calls the listing agent to say, hey, these are really good buyers. You know, choose us because we're going to get it closed, and she does. You know what was interesting about that is that as we're in this market, and if I have a listing and I get a series of offers in, there are two questions that I ask, and a lot of times I call the lenders on the letters and ask them about what information have they gotten from the buyer in order to write this letter. Because a lot of times it's very unclear, Sandy, what their letter is really saying. And sometimes there's the words, they don't even use the words approved or pre-qualified, or it's a real twist of language. And then sometimes there's lenders that are like in Omaha, and you're going, who is this? You know, Quicken or Rocket Mortgage. I'm going to tell you right now, Sandy just bailed out somebody from I call the North Korean Rocket Mortgage, because that sucker was a dud. And, you know, you have to follow up on these letters. You have to understand. I called one, and the mortgage offer really hadn't even talked at great length with the buyer. And I'm like, you don't even recognize their names or anything, or, huh? That letter is critical. The second piece is, who is your inspector? Because I want to know that too. And that has something to do with the offer. And the realtor on the other side has to do something with the offer, doesn't it, Sandy? All those things make a difference.
Yeah, everything.
Right? So, you know, Sandy is probably too humble to talk about it, but I'm not. We had a transaction where, as I was inferring, the Quicken Mortgage, they kept saying COVID, 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 COVID. We're 14 days past closing date and still couldn't get anybody on the phone. So what did I do? I told the lender on the other, or the agent on the other side, to call you. What happened, Sandy?
Yep, we got their application. We flashed it through. We tried to get the other lender to transfer the appraisal, but unfortunately that didn't work out. They said it would take 2 weeks, so we just ordered a new one. We got the title work, and we approved it, I think, within about 7 days, and we're closing it within 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. We saved the buyer and seller transaction because it had been another 30 to 45 days if we'd been out of the market again, plus the whole process of negotiation again. Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. So let's bring it home to the closing table. All right?
Okay.
Go means getting this thing to the closing table. Systems, communications. Catch me up there.
Yeah, so communication is key, and getting us documentation is key. What lenders don't like are snapshots of bank accounts. We have to have URLs. We have to have all the transaction history. We can't take a front page of a statement. We have to have PDFs. There's so many crazy, weird rules. No large deposits without sourcing the funds. No gaps of employment unless we can have a good explanation. If hours varies, it's always what do we use, because we can't tell how many hours they really work. So it's a lot of analysis and putting things together, which people get aggravated. But we have two clients. We have our client, the buyer. We also have our client, the investor, that we have to satisfy, because what we don't want is to have to buy back a bunch of loans because they're not happy with our documentation. So it's a juggle, and we try to get as much up front so that we're not over asking and asking and asking for the same things over and over again. Sometimes it might feel that way if we ask for a transaction history with a URL and we get a picture that doesn't have a URL. Anyway, I know we have crazy rules, but we will stick with you and we'll be on the phone with you. I think phone calls are super important. We can't say everything on an email or a text. So the more communication, the easier things go. And then we get it through underwriting. That's initial approval. The underwriting may have a couple concerns that we have to address. And we send out the CD and we address those final things, and then we get clear to close and send the docs to the attorney.
Right.
So that's the basics. It is a process, but we do it so often that we're pretty good at it.
Yeah. Sandy, so there's a lot of back and forth, isn't there?
A lot of back and forth, and we're dependent upon a lot of different entities. So we might, we're working on the loan, so all of a sudden there's a few items that have to be negotiated on the repair list, and then they decide to give closing cost credits, or what do we do about this thing that happens? Does it have to be fixed? So we have to be involved in all that. Nothing worse than getting to the table and we never knew that there was a contract addendum that reduced the price or had closing costs. Then we look bad. So we're always calling the realtors to see if we've got the right information.
Yep.
And there's also nothing worse for a buyer not to know what day they're actually closing, and everybody ends up at the wrong place at the wrong time. So
no wires come
like
in.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do everything right. If that closing doesn't happen good, then there's a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and they're like, that was a horrible experience. So 65% of people do not have a good mortgage experience, and we want to be the exception.
Yeah. So what makes you different?
I think a lot of it is communication. We pick up the phone constantly. Like, I'm always on the team. Did you pick up the phone? What is the title in? Have you called them? Where are we at with this? So, and we work all together. Like, we have a lot of people on our team. We have 4 people, including me. But we all have our jobs identified, and we take care of those pieces. And then the puzzle all comes together at the end. And then we get to celebrate the closing.
Woohoo! All right. Okay, so I'm going to give you a lightning round. Are you ready? Why
Sure.
list your home right now? I got 1 minute and 45 seconds. All right, so here we go. Data. When more homes are sold than go on the market, it's a winning proposition. When month over month, inventory of homes continues to shrink, it's a big woohoo. Next, when the only mail I get is someone offering to buy my home, even though they're usually not legit, there's demand out there. When rates are this stinking low, costs of buying make so much more sense if you're ready, but you're going to have to be patient. The spring market this year was delayed. We had 28% increase in buyers in January and February. They went in park during the COVID. Now we have a 19% decrease in listings. 28% more buyers, 19% less listings. You want to sell? Price it right. Get ready to move. You still have time. The spring market will be moving into summer and fall if we get our country back. People are leaving New York, Chicago, Boston, California. They want to get out. We see them coming, and we're talking to them right now. People want a home office. And before this happened, 112 people a day were moving into this market. That's big. We're ready. All right. Sandy, how do they get you?
They call my mobile, 704-577-0144.
We need listings. Give us a call, 704-846-DONE, 846-3663, or on the web at myjamisonhomes.com. Give us a call, please. We have buyers. Thank you for being with us to show your real estate today. God bless. We'll talk to you next week. Take care and be safe.
With the brand new iPhone